part of this project is really bringing a spotlight to Detroit about innovative floral design, and that Detroit can be a place where there's some pretty kick-ass florists doing cool things here. I am Lisa Waud and I'm 37. In 2007 in Ann Arbor I founded Pot & Box, and 2 years ago I opened the second studio here in Hamtramck. We've got a pretty good radius. We do weddings and events and all kinds of horticultural decor installations and in Southeast Michigan. The year I graduated from high school, I started working at a garden company. I grew up north and just loved it, working outside and with plants. And so then when I went to college, I went into the horticulture department at Michigan State and studied horticulture and landscape design there. And eventually started a business with a friend in Petoskey, my hometown. And eventually didn't want to, I wanted to travel and move around a little bit, and that I did. I lived in the Pacific Northwest, Portland and Olympia, and even lived a year in Hawaii. But then when it was time to come home, I moved to Ann Arbor and opened my business. I was living in Ann Arbor and started coming over to Detroit for Tigers games and concerts and things like that, and then eventually it turned into 3, 4, 5 days a week that I was coming over, and it was kind of a romantic bolt that hit me. I just woke up one day and knew that I loved the city and wanted to move here and work here. I found this great spot here in Hamtramck, and I love the community here. It's so dense and so diverse, and you know, if I need to, I can hop right on the highway. I am working on a project called Flower House, and I came up with it. I've traced it back to a love of Christo and his huge scale projects, you know, wrapping the bridge in Paris and doing the gates in Central Park, the islands in Florida. I've always just loved the enormity of scale and how temporary they are. And I wasn't really sure that I needed to do something of that scale or what it would be until a few years ago in 2012 I saw images of the Dior show in a mansion outside of Paris, where they completely covered the walls and ceilings with fresh flowers. You know, a whole room of Phalaenopsis orchids and a whole room of yellow solidago, and I was just smitten. And I knew instantly that I had to do something like that. And one of my main, you know, urges in doing that is I wanted to experience it. I wanted to know what it was like, and I wanted to have as many people as possible know what it would be like to be in there, what it felt like, and smelled like, and sounded like. Eventually, the canvas turned into a house I bought here in Hamtramck on auction for $250. And I actually bought 2 because they were right next to each other and the price was right, which turned out to be great because we used the smaller one for a preview event in May. This house is really interesting because the front of it has a little commercial storefront, which I know now in the 50s was a TV repair shop, and most recently, well, 15 years ago, a law office. You know, the bookshelves were full of law books and everything, but so we used that little commercial storefront as our preview event. So, you know, when I give people the pitch, we're going to fill a house with flowers, you know, and they look at me and go, I don't know what you mean. So now we can point to images from something that we've done, and we can say, we're going to do this, but times 15. And so that'll be in the house next door. Like I said, a 15-room house. It's a duplex, you know, so it has 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms, and it's really going to be spectacular. Really, really something. At first I thought it would be, you know, a $150,000 project because we'd have to buy all the flowers. But as it turns out, everyone is so supportive and they want to see this happen. And so any of our wholesalers are all in. You know, we'll be able to get the flowers donated, which is amazing. And as our wholesalers are contacting the growers are all in also. And so for the preview event, we sent our wish list out and it came back, you know, double the size because people just wanted their stems and their flowers to be a part of it. So, you know, I thought it would be, you know, this expensive, and it's still going to be this expensive, but, you know, at least we're getting the flowers donated. So now the costs that we're raising money for are for the deconstruction of the houses after we do the installation, because I'll actually be launching a flower farm there when we bring the houses down after the project, which I think is really great. And it turns out the neighborhood thinks is really great too, as I've met a lot of the people who live there, have raised their families there, and, you know, gone back for generations. So, you know, they stop in and introduce themselves and ask, like, what's going on here? Especially because, you know, it's a bunch of florists hauling flowers into a house that's been empty for a decade. But so I tell them, you know, they're like, "Are you going to bring these houses down?" You know, they're a real eyesore on the block. So they're excited the houses are coming down, and they're really excited to have a flower farm there, as far as I can tell.